Hello and welcome back to Scratch. This is tutorial number 4, or project 4, that I call Candy Ghost. And we're going to be dealing with some more sensing blocks. We're going to introduce the concept of a broadcast and a variable. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. We're not going to need Scratchy for this, so let's go ahead and get rid of him. And we will bring in our sprite from the sprite library. So we'll go to there, we'll go to Fantasy, and we'll bring in Ghost number 2. Now, once we bring in Ghost number 2, let's go to Information. We'll just change his name to regular old Ghost. We'll set his rotation style to just left and right. Let's go to his costume. We're going to get rid of his second costume, and we're going to get rid of this pop sound that's associated with him. There we go. Next, let's go ahead and bring in a stage or a background. So I'm going to click on Stage. I'm going to go to Backdrops. I'm going to choose Backdrop from the library. I'm going to select Outdoors, scroll all the way down, and I'm going to select the background called Woods. There we go. Now once I do this, I no longer need this blank one. Get rid of that and get rid of the sound associated. I'm not sure why some of these have the default sound pop associated with them, but I don't need it, so I'm getting rid of it. And we're ready to begin. Alright. First, let's go up to Events. And let's bring out a hat block, a when green flag is clicked, to start a new thread. We'll go to Control. We'll bring out a forever block, which, as we've already mentioned, is a loop, and we'll snap that right in. Alright, so the first thing we're going to ask our ghost to do is let's go to Motion. We're going to ask it to point towards the mouse pointer. And then we're going to ask it to move 3 steps when it does so. Then we're going to go ahead and snap those in, and let's see what that does. So we've got our ghost, and he's pointing towards our mouse pointer. But when he reaches the mouse pointer, he does that thing where he flops back and forth and kind of flips out. So we're going to throw in a script to deal with that. Now, last tutorial we threw in a script to deal with that, but this one's going to be a little different. Alright. Now, on this one, this is going to require us to go to the Control button and bring out an if-then block, which is a conditional. And what we're going to do is we're going to also bring out an operator. We're going to bring out a greater than, and we're going to go to Sensing, and we're going to bring out a distance too. So if I formulate the argument, basically what it's saying is, so if the distance to the mouse pointer is greater, and I'm going to say 10 is greater than 10. Snap that right in there. So if the distance to the mouse pointer is greater than 10, then do this. Do what? Do this. We're going to steal these from down here, put them right in here, and then drag the conditional, the if block, up inside our loop forever. And now let's play it. It essentially does the same thing. It's just a little more elegant. He doesn't flop around. Okay. Alright, good enough. So, next, let's create our next sprite. In this instance, we are actually going to create it. We're going to paint a new sprite. So I'm going to click on Paint New Sprite. And for some reason, this starts us off in the bitmap version of graphics. So we're going to switch from bitmap mode to vector. So I'm going to click Convert to Vector. Notice here are my bitmap tools. When I click to convert to vector, you won't see these anymore, and I'll see my vector tools. As mentioned in a previous tutorial, one of the cool things about vectors is you can change the size of the images and they don't lose their resolution. So let's go ahead and convert to vector. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create basically a lollipop, a piece of candy. So I'm going to use the ellipsis shape, and I'm going to choose blue, and I'm going to choose a solid ellipsis. And if you remembered, if you drag out the ellipsis shape while holding down the shift key, it makes it a perfect circle. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I think I want that a little bigger, and even a little bigger than that. That's good. Okay, now there's the shape of our candy. So next I'm going to give it a handle. So I'm going to click on the line tool. I'm going to go down to white, and I'm just going to draw that down just like that. And next I'm going to go back to my ellipse shape, and this time I'm going to select basically a hollow ellipse, and I'm just going to drag out a little circle in there, kind of just meant to give the candy a little texture. So there we go. And I'm going to change this sprite's name from sprite1 to candy blue. And you can play with it, the rotation style, if you want it to be able to flop all around or go left, right, or just stay in one place. That's up to you. All right, good. Next, let's go give this guy some code. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to events. I'm going to drag out a new hat because we're starting a new thread. I'm going to go to control. I'm going to drag out a forever, and we're ready to give this guy some code. All right, so what I want him to do is, so when this is clicked, I'm going to ask him to, let's go to motion. I'm going to ask him to move, and I'm going to make him a little slower than the ghost. If you remember, the ghost was 3, so I'm going to make this 2. I'm going to ask him to turn 15 degrees to the right, and I'm going to ask the lollipop to bounce if it's on the edge, so I'm going to drag that out. So let me snap those in. And notice when I do this, the lollipop just does sort of some donuts. So that's a little too predictable, so I want to do something a little bit more random. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop this. And I'm going to come up to, whoops, stop you. I'm going to come up to our operators button, and I'm going to bring out the random command. And for the coordinates, I'm going to say, or for the degrees, I'm going to say, let's pick random -20, 20. And I'm just going to go ahead and snap that right in place of the 15. So now when I play it, it's kind of jerking around. It's just a little more random, a little bit harder. So I've got the mouse following. I'm sorry, I've got the ghost following my mouse, and I'm trying to get him to eat the candy. Now, nothing's happening because I don't have the code set up to do that, but we're on our way. All right. So, next, let's go back to the ghost, and let's give him a costume. Now, if you notice, the ghost is in vector mode, so what I want to do is I want to get rid of his mouth because I want to draw a different mouth. Oh, before I do that, though, I need to create a duplicate. So let me right-click, duplicate. And then the one I want to mess with is the duplicate. We'll leave the first one alone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this costume so I don't forget. I'm going to call it Open because his mouth is open. And I'm going to change this one's name, too. I'm going to call it Closed because when I'm done, his mouth will be closed. Okay. So in order to achieve this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down, and I'm going to select my pick color tool, little eyedropper, and I'm going to select the white right on the ghost's face so that I'm using the exact same color as the ghost. And I'm going to come up to my bucket, which is color shape tool. And what I'm going to do, I'm just basically going to color in the edge of his mouth, his inside of his mouth, and then his tongue, and then you'll see that it'll basically look white. So click on that, click on that, click on that. And now technically his mouth is still there, you just can't see it because it's the same color as his body. Okay, so next I'm going to come back down to the pickup color, and I'm going to click on the black in his eye because I want the black that I used to be the exact same color as the rest there. I'm going to come up to the pencil, and I'm just sort of going to draw a mouth that's closed, and I'm going to make it look like he's got a mouth full, like he's chewing. And you'll see in a minute when we put the script in that I'll make him look a certain way. So it'll go back and forth like this. Okay. So there's our costume for our ghost. So let's go ahead and let's put in the code to control the candy. So let's go back to the candy. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring out a control block. I'm going to bring out a conditional, an if. And we're also going to go back and we're going to bring out another sensing block. And here's something new. This color, whatever it is touching, color, whatever it is, and it does something else. So let's see what it does. So in this case, if the color of the lollipop. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click right in this color area right here, and this becomes sort of a sampler, just like that eyedrop tool. And I'm going to come to the lollipop. I'm going to click on it. So now that I've got the color of the lollipop, is touching the color of, and then I'm going to click on that and do the same thing, and it's going to be the ghost's mouth, his tongue. So, and then I'm going to put this Boolean statement, true or false. I'm going to put this inside the conditional statement. So if the color of blue is touching the color of this particular color red, then certain things will happen. Okay, so what's going to happen is, let's go up to events. It's going to broadcast a message. Now, a broadcast is a way that programs within the program communicate with each other. I like to think of it as sort of the Marco Polo concept or principle. A broadcast always has two parts. It has a part that goes out, the message, and a part that receives the message. So the part that goes out is the Marco, and the part that comes back is the Polo. So this particular message, we're going to click on this arrow. I'm going to say new message. I'm going to call this message "Got Me," because this is when what the candy will do once it gets caught. So say OK, and I'm going to drag this up into the if block. And so if our ghost catches the candy, that is this color touches this color, it'll broadcast "Got Me." Then what I want the candy to do is I want it to hide. I want it to look like it's been eaten. So I'm going to drag out a hide block, and then I want it to wait a certain amount of time. In this case, we'll do 3 seconds. And then I want it to come back so that we can keep playing the game. So I'm going to go to motion, and I'm going to say go to. Now, I don't want to give it a specific coordinate necessarily. I want it to just be totally random. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring out some more operator blocks so that it'll be random. So I'm going to need 2 of them. So I'm going to bring them out. And so I'll do the x coordinate first. So the random coordinate will be -200 to 200. I'll throw that into x. And if you remember from our very first tutorial, that will put that basically anywhere in here. So 200, so x -200 to +200 it'll be anywhere on the screen. So, and then next we'll put in the y coordinate, which will be -170 to 170. Snap that into the y, and like I said earlier, if you remember our first tutorial, the y coordinate goes up and down. So 170 would be up here. -170 would be up here. So basically it's going to pop up anywhere on the screen. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and snap that in there. So I'm telling it where to go, but now I got to tell it to make itself visible. So I'm going to go back to looks, and I'm going to say show. And then I'm going to snap all of these blocks right under broadcast, and then I'm going to snap this whole if statement right underneath if on edge bounce, and now they're all together. Now let's play it and see what happens. So I click start, the ghost follows my mouse, and I'm going to try to direct him towards the candy. He eats the candy disappears for 3 seconds, and then shows up randomly somewhere. Okay, so far so good. Alright, so next, let's add some code for the ghost to do something when he catches the candy. As you remember, we made a costume, closed mouth, open mouth, and that's where this script is going to come into play with that. Alright, so we're going to go to events, and we're going to bring in when I receive got me. So remember, this is the Polo version. This is the Polo. So the candy will shout out got me, and then the ghost will receive got me. Okay, so it's message sent, message received. All right. When he receives got me, I want him to switch costume to closed, so it looks like his mouth is closed. Then I want him to wait about 0.3 seconds, and then I want the costume to switch to open. So let's take a look at this, what we've got now. So the mouth closed, then it opened, and then the candy reappeared. But you notice, you may see this, you may not, the candy is now behind the ghost. It's kind of a weird glitchy thing, but I'm going to show you some code in a minute or two that'll take care of that. Okay. So Before I do that, though, I want to make it look like he's chewing when he eats. So we're going to go to Control, and we're going to drag out another loop. So far, we've only been using forever loops. Repeat is also a loop. It makes the program do something, but in this case, it has a certain number of times. And in this case, I'm going to say repeat twice. So let's drag this down, put that in there. And now, when we play it, he's going to eat, and it's going to look like he's chewing, because the mouth opens, then closes, then opens again. So it's just a sort of a gimmick, sort of an effect. All right, good. Next, let's add a little more life to this. Let's add a sound. So I'm going to the ghost. So I'm going to go to Sounds, and then I'm going to go to Import a Sound, choose Sound from a library, and I'm going to select Chomp. Now we've got the chomp sound. Now let's put in the code for it. Alright, the code we're going to need to put in is under the sound block, and we're going to say play sound chomp. We're just going to bring that right up, and then when we play it, he will make a chomping sound. Now you're not going to hear it on this, because for some reason this tutorial, this video software I'm using that allows me to record this video in my voice, doesn't allow the program. It doesn't record the program sound, so you'll hear it when you do the assignment yourself. All right. So next, we've got our ghost, and he's going after the candy, and it'd be nice if we could keep score of how many he's captured. Let's do that. So here is our first introduction to the data block, the data button, and we're going to make a variable. So let's click variable. And we're going to call this variable score. Now, when you make a variable, you have two choices: a variable for all sprites, or a variable for only the sprite that you're making it with. In this instance, and as in many instances, it's going to be for all sprites. I want this to affect all sprites in the game. So I'm going to click OK, and then when you do, this comes up. This little this little check next to the score variable shows you that it's going to be on screen. If I didn't want to show the score variable on screen, I could deselect this and it would go away. But I want to show it. So let's. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it when I'm going to change it. I'm going to tell it to change score by 1, and I'm going to throw that right underneath the broadcast, so that when you play the game, the score goes up by 1 each time that you capture the candy. Now, I want to show you something. I'm going to stop this. I'm going to start it again. Notice that it saved my score. Now, you may want that. You may not. But I want it to restart. I want it to go back to 0 when I start a new game. So, to do that, I'm going to bring I'm in my data button. I'm going to go to. I'm going to bring out a set score to 0 block, and I'm going to put that right underneath this hat right here. So when this is clicked, when the green flag is clicked, it will set the score to 0, and so that you start off at 0 at the beginning of each game. Okay. All right, next. I mentioned that the lollipop keeps, when it disappears, and it comes back after 30 seconds. Notice it's in front now. Let me show you a little sort of glitch. Notice I stopped the game while the lollipop was disappeared. Now I'm going to start it. It doesn't come back. It's sort of a glitch. Now you could always make it come back by coming down to the candy and right-click on it and click Show. That would make it come back. But I'm going to throw some code in there that will make it come back on its own. And also I'm going to throw some code in there that will take care of that glitch about how sometimes the lollipop can end up behind the ghost. So I'm going to go to Looks, and I'm going to bring out a Go to Front block, and I'm going to bring out a Show block. And I'm going to snap those up top. And now when we play it, it'll always be in front, and regardless of when it is I stop the game and start it, it'll always appear like it's supposed to. Okay. Now, let's make this a little bit more involved. So currently we only have one piece of candy. Let's bring in some more candy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the candy, I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to click duplicate. I'm going to click on the duplicate candy, I'm going to click information, and I'm going to change the color. I'm going to change its name. I'm going to change its name to green. I'm going to go back, I'm going to go to costume, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color. So I'm going to go down to green, I'm going to select the bucket, and I'm going to click right on the lollipop, and that will be green. Now we also have to change it in the script because it's no longer looking for blue, it's looking for green. So I'm going to click on color, and I'm going to come down to my lollipop, click on green. So now I'm going after 2 lollipops. And I can do it again. I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to duplicate. I'm going to change its name to yellow. This one I'm going to restrict. I'm going to make it so that it kind of stays upright. Now I go to costumes, and I have to change the color. I click on the color that I want. I click on the bucket. Click on the lollipop. And now I'm going to go over to the code, and I got to switch over the code. Click on yellow. And now we've got 3 pieces of candy that we're going after. And there you have it. That's the Candy Ghost. Let's see how you do.